All right, Richard Nixon is the dude that messed up the whole game for America. I want to say 1969 or 1959 he was in office. 50s or the 60s. I can't remember because it was before I was born. So, this douchebag, okay, look at him, douchebag. He decided, hey, let's take the American dollar bill and let's cancel the gold. Therefore, it's not backed by nothing. Now, why does that matter? You ask. Why does that matter that he took the gold out of the circle? So America's dollar won't be backed by nothing. Why would he do that? He's about to explain how he's about to f up your life. Here we go.
Far the strongest in the world.
71. Either way.
Accordingly,
before I was
have
born.
directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I directed Secretary Connolly to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
August 15th, 1971.
Hold on, commercial.
Dad, we got this.
Where's Shark?
One will stand as an important event in economic history for many, many generations. In fact, hundreds of years from now, people will look back to that day.
1979. Why my phone keep doing that blurry thing? It's ridiculous. Oh, nope, 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 nope.
The sun rises today as it has a million times before. Commuters wake up and travel to their offices to begin the day's work. Farmers tend to their crops. Construction workers build new infrastructure. Today is a day like any other. Or is it? In 2008, the world experienced one of the greatest financial turmoils in history. Markets around the world started crashing, and major financial institutions, once thought to be invincible, started showing signs of collapse. Governments responded quickly, issuing massive bailouts and stimulus packages in an effort to keep the world economy afloat. And it worked. The global economy recovered much quicker than most predicted, and soon it was back to business as usual. And yet, something still isn't quite right. A growing sense of unease fills the population. In the world of finance, indeed, in all facets of modern life, cracks have started to appear.
There's angst out there, and I think if you talk to people on the street today, they would tell you, I don't know what's causing all this, but this just doesn't feel normal to me. The government's running $1 trillion worth of deficit. Why isn't the economy improving? The government's going to spend almost $3.7 trillion. Why don't I have a job? Why is the unemployment rate at 9%? And I even think that number's understated.
A lot of people are feeling unsure about the world today, concerned that something terrible is waiting in the wings.
It is.
We're told that the global financial crisis of a few years ago has been fixed. But what if the crisis isn't the cause of the angst so many of us feel, but rather the symptom of a much deeper problem?
At Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, delegates from 44 allied and associate countries arrived for the opening of the United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference.
Our story begins in 1944. With World War II coming to an end, the Allied nations met at Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to create a new financial system which would stabilize the world once the war ended. With America poised to enter a golden age of prosperity, the U.S. dollar was chosen as the world's reserve currency.
The Bretton Woods system was created after the Second World War at the Bretton Woods Conference in New Hampshire. And rather than using gold as the means of exchange between countries, as was the case under the old gold standard, the dollar was going to be used. The dollar was chosen because back then it was as good as gold.
Under this new system, countries agreed to fix their currencies to the U.S. dollar.
Fiat.
The U.S. dollar would be tied to gold at a price of $35 per ounce. This meant that countries around the world could trade their currencies for U.S. dollars, which they could then exchange for gold. This created a system where all currencies were essentially backed by gold.
Backed by gold.
To avoid the logistics of shipping physical gold across the world, when countries did exchange their currencies for gold, it was usually stored safely in the U.S.
Treasury.
Under the Bretton Woods system, you could exchange your currency or your dollars for gold. Now, it only applied to foreign countries and central banks. And we began to run budget deficits. We were running the Great Society program under Lyndon Johnson. We were fighting a war in Vietnam. And all of a sudden, we were running these deficits, and countries were changing their dollars. And they said they wanted gold. And it began with the French, and then it started to spread.
With all the new spending programs in the United States, other countries became concerned that the U.S. was spending more money than it had gold reserves. They started exchanging their dollars for gold and demanded physical delivery because they felt that there were more dollars being printed than the gold that backed it. To prevent this outflow of gold from American vaults, President Nixon...
Watch what this fool do. Watch what this fool do. Richard Nixon
called for an emergency suspension of the gold convertibility system.
I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets.
All of the problems that we see today in the monetary system are a direct result of the decision made in August 15th, 1971
Richard Nixon.
to abandon fixed link back to gold. What gold did is it provided discipline on governments, provided discipline on government spending.
Under the old system,
The
if
gold
you
standard.
ran a budget deficit, then what would happen is gold would flow out of your country until there was a balance again. Well, without any gold backing, then countries ran perpetual deficits. So if you look at, for example, this country, from 1971 on, the U.S. has never run a surplus. Ever since we went off the gold standard, it's just been perpetual stimulus. Good times, bad times, always run a deficit.
What led Nixon to abandon the gold standard in 1971, although he claimed it was temporary? We've been waiting 40 years, we're still off of it. We ran up huge deficits during the 1960s. We had the guns and butter economy where the government was both simultaneously fighting a war in Vietnam abroad. In addition, we were funding manned missions to the moon and the whole space program. We were creating more money than we had gold reserves to back it up. And a lot of our foreign creditors saw this and began to demand gold rather than their Federal Reserve notes because they sensed that Washington simply didn't have enough gold to the dollar.
By removing the link between gold and the U.S. dollar, President Nixon created a system where all currencies were backed by nothing. This is what is known as a fiat currency.
Fiat currency.
Fiat currency is currency that's backed by nothing except government promises. The word fiat is a Latin word, and it basically means currency that's circulating by force. If people have confidence in that currency, and if there's enough government force, that will enable the currency to circulate for a period of time until...
Okay, so you heard that. We under a fiat currency. So basically, if you keep faith in this money and we keep it just going, that's as good as it gets. So once people realize this money ain't worth nothing, it's a wrap. Because it ain't backed by nothing that other countries can deal with. And once other countries decide not to deal with you anymore because they don't want your IOUs, aka your dollar bills, then it's over. The U.S. currency has no value. $20 bills ain't got no value. I said that in my last video when I first got onto the internet on my other channel that, listen, man, cash money is a bunch of IOUs for you supposed to have gold. Bars of the shit. Now the United States hasn't had gold since, like that lady said, 1979 or 96, I think. They haven't had gold in a minute. Ain't no gold here. So what's been keeping this money going in circulation? The faith in it. People got faith in money. Money is their God over here in America. So if money is your God over here in America and your dumb ass not knowing it's backed by gold, you going to keep it in rotation. You going to keep it in circulation. And other countries like, man, the United States with these stupid dollar bills, man, we getting real tired of this because other countries got gold. That's why they killed Gaddafi, because he had gold. He had all the gold. He had gold. He was balling. And he like, man, I'm about to make gold the new standard again. And that's why America, like, we got to take this nigga out. Because if Gaddafi come back and start making gold the new standard, and that's the new currency, and we ain't got that shit, we're out of circulation, and our country gonna die. Because every other country got gold. I'm going to let the video keep playing.
People lose confidence in the currency.
There is no nation on this planet that currently uses money. We all use currency. There will come a day when everybody knows the difference.
Money is a medium of exchange, and the way it has evolved is that it's always something of intrinsic value until the modern age, when the politicians say, well, we don't need anything of intrinsic value anymore. All we need is political decree. We can say, this is money, this piece of paper is money. Now money has a new characteristic. But underneath it all, there's this same concept in place that nobody ever seems to challenge, and that is that governments have a right to declare something of no value to be money, and you must accept it. That's really the problem, and it's still the problem today. It's destroying the economies of the world.
Children.
With currencies no longer backed by anything real or tangible, their value was measured only in relation to each other. And because countries with relatively weak currencies can make products cheaply, countries devalue their own currencies to make them desirable trading partners.
Every paper currency measures itself against the dollar. So if the dollar goes down, the other central banks respond to that, and they try and intervene in the foreign exchange markets to ensure that the impact doesn't hit their domestic economies.
Crazy.
What is a Ponzi scheme?
Here we go.
A Ponzi scheme is
It's
a
America.
fraudulent investment scheme that promises high returns for investors with little or no
Every time.